once again offer my most prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of Bhagwan Baba. Yesterday we spoke on self-confidence and how I saw the unending self-confidence that Baba portrayed, if you will. And I could never understand the source of his confidence. We still can't. He's a mystery to this limited mind of ours. But then, in his teachings, it's very clear. He says, once you know who you are, then there is nothing but self-confidence. There is no room for anything else. And Baba says, while self-confidence is the foundation of this house of spirituality, if you will, that we are trying to build, the next thing that follows is self-satisfaction. When I was in Baba's room, I used to admire the amount of greeting cards that he would get. Because people would wish him and people would send beautiful cards, because we were not allowed to read it. And I would be pained to just tear them, because they were looking so good. This was back in, early 80s, where we didn't have access to this kind of cards. So we were like, wow, such a beautiful card, I hate to tear it. And one day, because when Swami leaves most of his mail, he said, get rid of the ones he hasn't finished. And so we would tear them all. Or he would just say, take all this, check if there is any cash or any check or something, give it to this and tear the rest of the mails. So we'd be very strict about doing that. We would never go through the mails. It's not our business to. However, having said that, one day, I was going through this leftover mail and I saw this beautiful card. I had opened it just to see if there's anything inside it. There was nothing inside it, but what was written on it caught my attention. It was printed out. And it had the Saint Francis of Assisi prayer. Make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is despair, hope. And when I read it, it was perhaps the first time I came across a poem like that. It just touched me so deeply. I was for a moment just like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Because being with Swami, seeing the work that he was doing, a desire inherently just started coming, use me. How can I be part of this? This huge thing that you're doing. How can we be part of it? How can I be part of it? What role can I play in this? And that desire really kept growing in the years I spent Swami, and it's never stopped growing. So if I do a ceiling on desires, we'll probably touch upon it. There's one desire I won't put any ceiling on. The desire to be constantly be used by the divine. And so when I saw that prayer, it touched my heart. It was so beautiful. And no wonder it's withstood so many decades, if not centuries. I did some research, and nobody really knows if St. Francis wrote it, but he's been accredited with that poem, that prayer. Nevertheless, it's one of the most beautiful prayers. All of this happened in about 30 to 45 seconds, maybe a minute, as I was staring. And I heard this dreaded "ay" behind me. Swami had just stepped into his bedroom, and I was clearing the stuff. I opened this card, and then he said, "What are you doing?" I was so scared. I was not supposed to do this. I just looked at him, and he smiled and just forgotten. But I made a note of this prayer. And in the next chance I got to speak in Swami's presence, by then I started memorizing this prayer. I started saying it every day, in and out, because I thought it was the most beautiful way to have everything in one place. Be an instrument. Make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me so love. And it was so perfect. And so I was saying it. And so the next opportunity, sometime in the few months that I got to speak in front of Swami, I ended my talk offering this prayer. Make me an instrument of thy peace. And Swami was very happy. And I touched his feet. He came later on, next day, and he asked how you spoke. Oh, very good. And I thought that was a confirmation of not only how I spoke, but that prayer which I said. I got a chance to say it in front of him. And he didn't react negatively, or he didn't give me any other reaction other than just praise. So I was very, very happy. I said, this is it. This is going to be my prayer. And so I went on and on with that prayer for a long time. And after a couple of years or more, I don't know the exact timeline, it really doesn't matter here. I decided I had spoken 2 or 3 occasions or more, and then when I got a chance once again, I said, maybe it's time I place this prayer again at Swami's feet. And so when I said this prayer again, Swami came next day and he asked V.K. Narasimhan and other end, how did this boy speak? Swami spoke well. Good. Then he came to me and said, who are you to say, make me, make me? Make me coffee, make me tea, make me instrument. What is this, make me, make me? Why do you give order like that? Who are you to give order? I said, I couldn't tell, but that was in the prayer, I couldn't. I was just staring at Swami. We normally don't, it's better to keep quiet and just look at him, wait for this wisdom to come forward. So I just looked at him, actually stunned. I didn't know what to say. And then he said, when you want to sit somewhere, when you want to do something, what do you say? May I? May I, Chappu? Enduku make me? Who are you to say make me? So he was actually annoyed that I said make me. So I said, oh, okay, may I sounds good. So, and actually it did make sense, because may I is like a very reverential attitude to that prayer. May I be an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, may I so love. May I. It sounded perfect. And so that was my prayer for the months and years that followed. The reason I'm coming to this, because to me, as I was thinking last night, this makes a sense to the satisfaction. Where is that total satisfaction come? Make me is, I'm asking for something. And then it became may I, again guided by Swami. I kept saying, may I be an instrument of that peace. Internally, I was repeating it. Many years later, in Kodaikanal, where we spent a month, every day Baba would ask some of us to speak. And so I ran out of material. And then it struck me, hey, how about that prayer? Swami would have forgotten. I did it a long time ago. Pardon me. But when you're so close to him physically, it's but natural for us to get those kind of thoughts. And so I said, okay, so I will offer this prayer today after my speech, because I wanted a nice ending always, and it's with Swami especially sitting there, either a song or a sloka or a poem like this. So I braved myself, and at the end of that talk, I said, may I be, this is almost a decade after this constant contemplation, repetition, and internalizing of that prayer. So it's almost amazing as you see how Baba would guide us, take his own time to take us there. No rushing us, no spoon feeding us. He made it almost come from within. And at the right time, he prepared you for the next stage. So when I finished this talk and I said, may I be an instrument of that peace, I love saying it in front of Baba. It's just a whole different feeling. I touched his feet, and as I was about to sit, Swami said, Inka enta sepura beggar laga, may I. Let me say that in English. He said, how much longer like a beggar you're going to say, may I. And everybody laughed. And I was like, oh my God, what is this now? I couldn't say, you told me. You can't tell that, Swami. I just looked at Swami, just again stunned. And then he said very beautifully, when are you going to say, I am an instrument of thy peace? I am an instrument. Eppudu cheptava? I am eppudu cheptava? So that was such a profound moment. Because when you talk of satisfaction, it's not may I or make me, it's asking, wanting. It's saying I am. I am an instrument of thy peace. And so from that moment on, it became an affirmation rather than asking, rather than a prayer, rather than waiting for something to happen. Maybe someday I'll be an instrument. No, you already are. I am an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, I so love. Where there is injury, I so pardon. From this moment on, I will not seek to be consoled as I will seek out to console. I will not seek to be pardoned as I would seek out to pardon. So, that lesson to me has so many angles to it. That learning, that span of that prayer. That this was another angle where when we speak of self-satisfaction, we speak of complete contentment. There is no asking. And the more content you are, the universe gives you more reasons to be content. That means more is given unto you. When you say thank you, He gives you more reasons to be thankful. When you're frustrated, you get more reasons to be more frustrated. It's so beautiful. That's why when Swami, when we as students, and I can speak for myself, when we would write a letter saying sorry, Baba would be so upset. He would say, what is this sorry? Why couldn't you think before? It's over. Forget it. Don't go on asking sorry. It's over, gone. He wouldn't like you being in the past and putting on this guilt complex and carrying it with you. He wouldn't. And so he would say, forget it, it's over. There's no more sorry, only thank you. I think of this analogy. If we are in a storm-troubled night, if we are walking past, there is lightning and a very, very disastrous electrical storm outside, and you have no other place other than this eerie bungalow which you have to go and take shelter in, and you just come out of watching a horror movie, and you're terrified. I'm kidding, but think of an analogy. Analogy is always extremes. And then you have to enter this place, you open this door, and you enter the place, and it's pitch dark inside. And you can't go out, you can't go in. Then what happens? When fear overtakes you, you have a choice there. To say, Swami, please help me, Swami, I'm so scared, please help me, Swami, I am so scared, please help me. The way I've learned this lesson is when you pray like that, He stands. I want to help you, but you keep saying you're scared, so I'll wait. Allow me to help you. Please help me, Swami, I'm scared, Swami. Help me, Swami, I'm scared. Please help me, Swami, I'm confused, Swami. Help me, I'm confused. You already determined you're confused. You already determined you're sad. You already determined you're distraught. So I guess God waits for you to allow Him to help. We don't allow Him to help because we keep labeling ourselves. Oh, I'm already here. Please help me, I'm a sinner. Please forgive me, I'm a sinner. How can I forgive you? You keep saying you're a sinner, I can't forgive you. We attract that. So what do you do? What do you do in a situation in life, which is something akin to this analogy, where things are pretty dark on one side, dangerous on the other side, and I have only things to complain about. But in this analogy, I am inside this door, it's pitch dark, I don't know what is out there, what kind of rodents or whatever is out there, and I can't go out. What can I do? I can tell myself, just take one step right now, here. And are you alive? Right here and now. Am I alive? And the answer comes, yes. Am I breathing? Yes. Thank God. So the first thanks came. The moment I got a chance to thank, then a confidence builds up. Let me take one step and see. How bad can this be? At least I'm here. I can always come back to where I am. I take one step. Anything happened? No. Thank God. One more thanks. The little things that we are grateful for gives us courage to take that one extra step. Grateful for the barest minimum in our lives. I'm grateful for this, truly grateful, not expecting something else. I can't be grateful expecting something else. But if I'm truly grateful and content where I am, right now I'm so content where I am. Thank you, Swami, for giving me this ability to breathe and be alive, where in the storm I could be severely hurt. But right here and now I'm alive, thank you. And that thank you gives me courage to take one more step, thank you. And a little thanks, and a little thanks. So that little thank you is like a little lamp in this huge bungalow of darkness. To get rid of that entire darkness, you don't need a huge 1,000-watt bulb or a huge flame or a bonfire. What do you need? You need a little candle. A little candle. That little candle may not light up the entire bungalow, but it lights your path and provides you the confidence to take the next step. And that is enough. And there are moments where that is just about right in our lives, where you just need that extra step to take, and you need light for that step. And that few steps takes you where you want to be. The gratefulness is such a powerful attitude, if you will. And Baba would always say, Kritignata. Kritignata is a Sanskrit, Telugu. Baba speaks Telugu, 90% of which is Sanskrit words, which is what Telugu is. So he would say Kritignata is such a one of the highest qualities of a devotee. Be thankful. And I can understand why, because we talk of law of attraction and all this, but when you are thankful, you are given more reasons to be thankful. Then you are thankful for this, then you get another thing and say, oh my God, I'm thankful for this too. I'm thankful for this, and then you are celebrating life because there is so many things to be thankful about. There are many doors that take us outside this hall, but we look at one closed door, one open door, and all the others are closed. We have reasons to cry as to why all the other doors are closed. But how many doors do you really need to get out? One. Why do you worry about the closed doors? Take that one open door and get out if that's what you need. And that could be right behind you, right next to you. But you're so focused on the closed doors that it becomes a habit to cry about how many doors were closed and how many doors are closed. That's inbuilt into this identity crisis that we are facing. You see, if a tooth is missing, your tongue goes to that missing tooth place. Remember in our childhood when we dropped a tooth? That's the nature. We always go and find the missing tooth, and then the tongue is always there. The focus is, oh gosh, this tooth is missing. You've got other teeth, another 31 to bite your food and eat, but we'll be crying about that one. We always find reasons to look at what is missing and focus on that. And therefore, our life is full of things that are missing in our lives. And that becomes a habit. I have seen people from my childhood, my uncles, aunts, some of them, who I know have always complained, and 40 years later, they have everything to be grateful for, but they find reasons to complain. And you want to shake them and say, look around you. You have everything that somebody else cannot even dream of. No, this is okay, but see, this is not working. If that is working, that is working now, but that day was not working, and look at this now. So, we are all there, part of it. I can speak for myself. There's always sometimes I catch myself. Why am I focusing on something that's not working? Let me focus on the things that are working. And then I find strength from them. Those things spur me on in a difficult time. But if I focus on things which are not working, then even in the best of times, I could be miserable. I could miss the best moments of my life. There's a beautiful story about a young boy who goes to, from the village in India. This is not a real story, again, some made-up story, but it's got a good moral. And I like these kind of stories. I put it in the back of my mind and tell myself these stories, and I use it to drive home a point. This boy, a young boy, comes from a village to the city to look for a job. Office boy, as they call him. In India, you have these young boys who run around the offices. He'll say, hey, get me 2 cups of tea. He'll go run around because the tea shops are all downstairs. And they'll go get you cups of tea or coffee or whatever. And so he comes looking for some job, and then he walks into this Microsoft office because they say they want some office boys for their executive building in Bangalore. So he goes there, he seeks a job, and the manager says, can you make a cup of coffee? He says, yes, I can make. Tea? Yes. Go, let me see how you make it. So he goes, runs, and shows how he makes a cup of tea and coffee. It tastes good. The manager says, good, you got the job. So give me your email ID, and I'll give you the job. I'll send you all the paper. Just sign. Simple paperwork. You just sign it and give it to me. This boy says, sir, I come from village. I don't have email ID. And this executive says, in this day and age, you don't have email ID. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has emails. You don't have an email ID. This boy says, no, I'm sorry, I don't. He says, go, you can't get the job. Go learn the days of the world and come. So this poor boy comes out of the office, he digs into his pocket, and he gets out a 50 rupee note that he has. Says, what do I do with this now? How do I survive in this city? I can't go back to my village. I have come to do something. He says, at least I've got this 50 rupees. And he's thankful for that. See, that gratitude for me is the building block. One step, that single step that you need to take, be grateful for that. At that moment, whatever difficulties we face in life, be grateful that one step. There's always one step you can take. There's always one direction you can go. It may not be the direction you apparently think is good for you at that moment. It could be a side step. Then take it and be grateful you were able to at least move. And so this boy is grateful for that 50 rupees. Says, what can I do with this 50 rupees? He says, let me do one thing. I'm from the village. I know to buy vegetables and go door to door. So he goes and buys some tomatoes and some onions and stuff. He goes door to door. He says, I have something to sell. At the end of the day, he looks at his pocket and there is 100 rupees. 50 has become 100. He says, wow, this is not bad at all. He uses 20 for his food. He says, tomorrow I'll try with this 80 rupees. And then 80 becomes 200. And thus slowly he builds confidence. He's content with what he's doing. He's happy. He came for a big job, but he's happy doing what he has to. And so he builds on his business. And in 5 years' time, he has a fleet of vans delivering food door to door. Big businessman. And so now he says, 5 years I've been running this business, and a friend says, you have to insure this business. Please get insurance on all your vans and everything. He says, okay. So he calls the insurance agent. He comes and explains all the policies. He says, all right, where do I sign? I like all your policies, or whatever it is. Let's go, be done with it. The agent says, sir, give me your email ID. I'll send you all the policies. This person says, I don't have an email ID. I never needed one. And the insurance agent says, sir, without an email ID, you built such an empire. Do you know what you could have done if you had emails? The man says, yes, I know. I would have been an office boy. So the thing that we think at that moment is really required for success could actually hinder your success. The spectacles may appear to be obstacles in front of your eyes, but they actually help you see better. So what you think is an obstacle may be actually a blessing. Sometimes not even in disguise. It's staring at you in your face. But because of my habitual complaining, I can complain sitting in the veranda in Swami's presence. I can still be complaining of how long I've been sitting. My back is hurting. I could, because that becomes a habit to complain. By the way, you don't have to sit on the floor for so long. Satisfaction, contentment, to me, I've learned it comes from gratitude. Comes from a sense of detachment. Swami was ever content. Ever content. And yet he had these visions and goals set out. So how do you correlate the two? If you say, oh, I'm just content, I don't want to do anything, I'm just content where I am, then that could be misconstrued as not wanting to do anything in life and just become a drifter. You just drift along, just go along saying, I'm content, I'm going along. That is a laziness. Contentment is where you're grateful, a vision is presented to you, you're grateful for that vision, for that challenge that life throws up at you, and you go after it with gratefulness. I have to provide for my family. I am so grateful I have a family. Let me provide them the best of what I can. And therefore I set out a vision to achieve out of gratitude, not out of greed, not out of desire. You see, we talk of desire, ceiling on desires. Swami uses the word korikalu in Telugu. Korikalu really is not translated as desires. The way I've understood it is wanting. Korikalu is wanting. Trishna in Sanskrit is craving. So the frowning of Vedantic truth is on the craving and on the wanting. Ichha is desire. Ichha is Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. So the cosmic energy comes to you in form of desire. So, but what is wrong in this? What's the difference here? When you want to do something, when you want something, guess what? The universe keeps you wanting. And that is why wanting is bad. Somebody prayed to God, I want to be counting a lot of money every day. He got a job as a bank teller. That's what the universe will give you exactly what you ask for. Because when you want something, you always kept wanting, and therefore wanting is bad. You'll never find fulfillment. Make me an instrument of thy peace. I could have said for the rest of my life and always be waiting to become an instrument. We wait for self-realization to come about. We wait to say, we are afraid to say, I am God. Someday I will become divine. I'll realize I am God. Someday. When is that someday? When? Today? Not today. Tomorrow? Oh, come on, give me a break. Next month? Oh, let's be realistic. So when is realistic? When is it to be realistic to... The point is, in spirituality, that wanting, that waiting to become something is no. Because you already are. You don't have to become something. If a prince comes to you and says, someday I want to become the king, you tell him, you are the prince, you are the heir through this mighty kingdom. It sounds so foolish for a prince to say, I wish I was a part of the palace. But that's what we do. We lose that satisfaction. We lose the contentment, and we think there is something out there that we have to achieve. And we wait for that to fall into our lap. And that waiting becomes an endless series of waiting. There is another beautiful analogy of a person who wants to be an instrument of God. He wants to do some work for God. And so he is weak, and he says, I'm so weak, I'm so sick, I really can't do any work, but I really want to be God's instrument. So he prays to God. And he has a dream where God says, there's a rock outside your door in the house. Push the rock. At least start doing that. That's my work for you. He gets up very inspired. He says, God has given me finally a work. He opens the door. Of course, there's this huge rock in front of his house. He starts pushing it from day one. He pushes the whole day. He works for hours. At the end of the day, he is tired. He breaks a sweat. His arms are aching. He says, my gosh, it's not working for me. And then he comes home depressed, and he goes to sleep. Gets up the next morning. He says, let me work again. And he goes back into work because this is the work God has given me. He asked me to push the rock. And he pushes it, and he gets so depressed that it's not moving an inch. The reason why I'm saying this, we are all in Swami's organization. We are all carrying out his mission. And we need to understand it from this story point of view. And he gets again very depressed and upset. Why is it not happening? I'm doing my very best. God has asked me to do it. I'm doing my very best, and it's not moved an inch. So he says, no, I have to build my muscles. So he eats better, and he works hard, and he builds his muscle to push the rock, and he tries his very best because he's a true devotee of God. He wants to be useful. And so he tries to push, and weeks and months go by. And the rock is not budged an inch. At last, completely dejected, he says, I give up. I give up. I am not fit to be an instrument of God. I am not fit to be a messenger. And he goes to bed, completely dejected, closing the door on his wish to be a messenger. And that night, God comes to his dream. And he says, I am not fit to be a messenger. You told me to push the rock, and it doesn't budge an inch. And God tells him in his dream, I told you to push the rock. I didn't tell you to move it. I told you only to push the rock. I didn't tell you to move it. The contentment, and he says, look at yourself in trying to push the rock. Look at you. You are sick and frail and miserable. Look at you now. You're muscular. You are back to your prime youth and health. Look at the benefit that has happened by simply pushing the rock. It is not your job to see if that rock is moved. That is not what I asked you to do. I didn't say move the rock from X to Y place. I just said push it. So when we are in Swami's mission, people ask me, what can we do to make the center big? What can we do to get more devotees? That is not your job. Our job is to be where our lives become his message. Whether this touches one life, whether it touches 100 lives, whether it changes the whole generation, or whether it doesn't do anything to anybody. It doesn't matter. It's not our business. Because there, you have expectations, and there is no satisfaction in what you're doing. oh, I've been, let's say, a center coordinator, or I've been doing this for so long, but nothing is really happening out there. That's not what you're in there for. You're doing it for the joy of being part of Swami's work. You know, once, after my speech, Swami called me, Dasara, he called me inside his room, and he said, he was very happy with my talk. He said, you spoke very well, and B.K. Narasimhan was there. He also said, oh, Swami, they're all yes. If Swami says yes, they'll all be like Arjunas. Yes, Swami, he spoke well. Swami says something wrong, he said, yes, Swami, he didn't speak well. So there's a danger having them around. But anyway, that day I was lucky. So they all said yes, and Swami was very happy. And Swami said, you think people listen to how you talk? I said, Swami, I think so. What do you achieve when you talk like that? Swami, I want to transform people, I said. And Swami started laughing so loudly. He said, for 55 years, I have been speaking, nobody's transformed. This guy wants to come once and speak, and he wants people to transform. Oh my gosh, that was a humorous moment, but I felt so tiny. I said, oh my gosh, I shut my mouth. He said, you speak because you sharing your faith. Don't worry about whether people are transforming or not. You get the joy of sharing your faith. You get the joy of sharing how you're being with Swami. Share that joy. That is your job. Don't worry about whether people are listening, whether people are transforming. That is not your job. And look at that selflessness that he adopted when he preached. And you go back to all these masters. Jesus spoke Sermon on the Mount. Only 12 people came and stood with him. And out of that, a few of them even doubted him at the time of crucifixion. So, how selfless are they when they share? They share because that's who they are. Swami loves people not to transform you. That's who he was. His nature was to love, and therefore he loved. His nature was being divine, so he was just who he was. He was not out there to impress you or convince you or transform you. He made it very clear on day one of his mission. There's such a beautiful letter. I have not come here to attract devotees. I have not come here to establish an institution. I have not come here to establish another religion, and so on and so forth. I've come to light the lamp of love. I've come to teach you the obligation to love, the duty to love. Because he was who he was. There's a beautiful story Swami tells us about Sant Eknath, a saint, who goes to this river to bathe, and he takes his disciple with him. And as he steps into the river to bathe, a scorpion stings him. And so he shouts in pain, picks up the scorpion, puts it aside. And then he goes into the river again, and the scorpion falls back into the water, stings him again. And he again shouts in pain, again takes the scorpion, puts it aside. And this goes on for 2 or 3 times. And the disciple is wondering, why can't he get rid of that scorpion? And the disciple is about to kill the scorpion. The master says, no, don't do that. And the disciple says, why? He's hurting you, he's stinging you. Why are you just letting him go every time? And the beautiful lesson that the master teaches at that time, and I think of this from Swami's point of view again. He says, the nature of the scorpion is to sting. My nature is to forgive. I will not go against my nature. Because he is stinging, if I sting him back, then he has done his nature. He's not broken the rule. I have broken, and I have stepped down. So when there was a time when there was, and these always happen. There was a lot of criticism about Swami and things like that. And I was privy to this discussion. B.K. Narasimhan came and told Swami, he was the editor of the Hindu at that time, chief editor, one of the largest circulating newspapers. He said, Swami, there are so many people who criticize you. Give me permission, and let me start publishing articles. We will counter these things. We have to do that in the newspaper. And Swami just smiled and said, have you seen Sai Gita when she comes here for the festivals? When she comes down the road, all the street dogs bark at Sai Gita. So does a Gita turn around to each dog and say, you shut up, you shut up? Sai Gita doesn't care about street dogs. It is walking because she knows she's an elephant. She knows who she is. She doesn't bother. Swami said, let them bark. That is their nature. There is a powerful lesson in this that we have to take home. We change our nature because we react to somebody else. If somebody tells me your bhajan is not good today, I'll say, yeah, I'll take care of this guy tomorrow. And I brood over it. I plot and plan against. No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying, but you know what I'm saying, right? We change our nature. We are happy, but suddenly we become sad. Why? Because somebody else commented upon us. And somebody else told us that somebody else has got told about this. And so, oh my God, and now I'm upset. But you were just happy 2 minutes ago. Why are you upset? Why is somebody else making you upset? And therefore, this contentment, this satisfaction that comes about is so important that we don't allow somebody else to control who we are. We cannot. Swami didn't do that. His nature was purely to love, and he loved. That was his nature. When in the hostel inauguration, 1980, December 25th, that was my first encounter with Swami, close encounter, I mean. I had to jump through these rings of fire. I probably told this story so many times. Until then, when Swami said, I am thousand mothers' love, I'm like your mother, I would say, how can he be a mother? What does he even mean by mother's love? It's very new to Swami. I couldn't grasp it internally. Though we were all smiling, internally I was going through this conflict. Why am I not able to understand this? What is when somebody says, I have 100 mothers' love or 1,000 mothers' love? What does it mean? That you're ready to do anything for this person? And I couldn't conceive that Swami could actually do something. But when he did that, what did he do? I had to jump through 3 rings of fire, through them. And when I did that, the rings slipped and all the 3 rings of fire was around my body as I landed on the floor. This was a small gymnastic event that we performed in front of Swami. And the accident occurred right in front of his eyes. I'm rolling on the floor. And there are more than 200, 300 people in the hostel that day, the public included. They're sitting around within 20, 30 feet of when this happened. And everybody was in shock when this actually, that moment when it happened. Because suddenly you find the 3 rings of fire stuck across this young fellow and he's rolling on the ground. They're like, oh my God. And it all happened so fast. I didn't have time to think. But when I opened my eyes, I saw Swami standing there. Not a vision. He actually jumped from that jula, they call it, the swing that, we have him, and he's gently swinging. He saw me running, and he knew something was going to happen. Obviously, he knew. We got to send word to stop it. At that moment, it doesn't matter whether, it's like a king, Akbar, jumped into the pool to save his son, because it was his son. He wasn't saying, I'm the king, hey, you jump, save him. He couldn't, there was no time. That love was so intense that he acted because that love forced him to act. It was almost like he and love became one. Here's Swami's action, and I always think of that. For me, that was the point when I understood what he meant. I am an embodiment of love. Because he's sitting on the jula, his students around him, devotees, you could have just said, stop the whole thing, I don't want it to happen. But at that moment, he knew something was going to happen. He jumped, and so I am running against this side into the fire, and he's coming this way. People probably saw him coming, I don't know. I was focused on the fire. So I'm on the floor, and he pulls me out of the rings, starts dusting me. He's wearing silk robes. He could catch, even a spark is enough to set his robe on flame. But he was dusting me, and he said, Bangaru, Bangaru, Bangaru. How did that happen? Because his nature was to love. He knew nothing else. I don't know how else to describe, and I'm sure students will also find it difficult and inexplicable to tell you that to what extent Baba could go to express that love. He could go to any extent. And that has not faded away or waned in any bit because he's not physically present among us. Because he was an embodiment of love, and because love is the purest energy, an expression of oneness, it exists even now between you and me. And that love we feel for each other, that respect we feel for each other, that admiration we feel for each other, is Swami. That is that energy that condensed itself into a human form. I am an embodiment of love. That love has embodied itself into that physical body. I know it sounds abstract. It sounds like, yeah, it's nice to hear, but what does it even mean? Ask yourself, pray, and you will be given an answer, and it will make sense to you just as it makes sense to me. And I'm only sharing how I experienced that intense love of Swami that came about that day. Swami's work, so the satisfaction that we are talking about, the self-satisfaction, is the dharma. If self-confidence was satya, to me, self-satisfaction is my dharma. The right action that we talk about. Swadharma. Step outside your comfort zone, because you need to step outside to be content. Seriously, you need to step outside the comfort zone. When love beckons you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when he speaks to you, listen to him, though his voice may lay waste the garden, may shatter your dreams as a north wind lays waste the garden. And when he embraces you, yield to that embrace, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. That is the energy of love. And in order to reach that state of surrender that we spoke about, maintain that level of self-confidence, I have to constantly practice contentment, gratitude, which means I have to step out of my comfort zone. Because it's easy to be content and drift along. It's very difficult to step out and say, this is a task given to me. Hanuman could have been content in the story of Ramayana. Hanuman could have been content saying, I am just simply a monkey, I'll do what everybody else is doing, do my little seva. But he knew he had a mission to fulfill. He stepped out of his comfort zone and he did what his calling was, inner calling, the dharma, the passion. You have to follow that inner calling with a sense of detachment, with a sense of offering that you have given me this task. Swami, we saw with Swami, there was so much of mission. I did already claim, right? I am a blind man, so allow me to use words which may or not make sense. He was zealous about his, zealous, I don't know how you say that. Zealous about, enthusiastic about everything he did. There was a passion behind what he did. There was a tremendous amount of, let us do a free hospital. You would announce it and let the energy build by itself. There's amazing amount of energy he would create, and yet there was a sense of dispassion, a sense of nothing can bind me. How many of us start a project and we get so attached to it that attachment, the project, becomes more important than the goal of that project? Right? We all sit to sing bhajans, and I love my bhajan so much that I want to go on singing with long alaps and more turning. I love my bhajan, my voice. Now that becomes so important that the whole overall effect of a bhajan is forgotten. It's the same thing with anything that we do. We start taking something and then we become so occupied with that little thing that revolves around who we are, that defines who we are, and we forget the bigger picture. But with Baba, it was never the case. He would take care of the tiniest of the tiny and the biggest of the biggest. That was the beauty of Swami. And to me, that came not only out of self-confidence that Swami portrayed at every moment, which I said yesterday was mind-blowing to all of us. How did Swami do these things? I still can't get over the fact that I was privy to this conversation again. He would say, how does a college become a university? Very simply, innocently, he's asking. Right? And then there you have these IIM, IIS, Bangalore, Indian Institute of Science, Indian Institute of Management, professors who were constantly in touch with Swami. So he had invited them. And me and another boy were pressing Swami's feet when he posed this question, how does a college become a university? And they said, Swami, you need I remember the word electron microscope, because that was a very big thing those days. So you need laser technology, electron microscope in biology lab, we need X number of college, and they made a list of everything that Baba didn't have at that moment. Oh. So what about this? No, this can't happen now, Swami, we'll have to wait. So it's almost like when I have a project, I look at how this project is not going to succeed because of all these things. If you would all take a paper, me included now, and write what is my greatest wish, and then it would be easy for me to fill the page writing why that particular wish is not going to get fulfilled, because it's easy for me to write that, because we focused always on things which are not there, on the lack of it. So they gave a big list of things which are not there, which is why this college cannot become a university at that moment, which needs a decade from then, or 5 years from then, or whenever. It seemed to be a practical approach, a real life approach, sensible approach, wise approach. Swami said, okay, so if we have all of this, then what happens? Then Swami, this professor explained, then the university grants commission. Adi empty. Commission ante Swami, all the vice chancellors from all leading universities of India, they have part of them, they are members of a commission. They would come. Entamandi untaru? How many people? Swami, 20, 25 people. Oh. They will come and inspect, see your campuses and see, and then they will declare. Okay. Ate oka pani cheyandi. So do one thing. Call those people. He circumvented all that process. He said, call those people. Honestly, I'm being very honest here. As a young boy sitting there, I thought Swami didn't understand what this is all about. I was like, oh gosh, he didn't get it. Because that's how Swami approached it. Then this professor just bowed very respectfully, says, cleared his throat. He says, Swami, college building is not ready. It's half built. Labs are not ready, Swami. Parvaledu, let them come. Let us see what they say. Let them come. It was almost like there was a time. He didn't have time. I have to spend this decade in education, next decade in... we can look back and analyze all this, but at that moment it seemed so simple, so straightforward, so supremely divine and innocent at the same time. It's hard to put a finger and say, oh, Baba's master plan. Now we can sit back and say all that. Historians will write volumes about it at some point. But at that moment when it is happening, it happens so simply, so beautifully. It's almost like this person who dropped out of school in 8th grade has no clue how to start a university. And he's saying, call the vice chancellors. So apart from self-confidence, I was like, where is this coming from? See, when that level of contentment is there, there's no seeking. He didn't want to seek anything from these people. He wanted to actually give them. He set up the educational institution not for getting anything out of it. How many of us set out a project because we want something out of it? How many of us set a project because we want to use that to give back? For him, all his project was to give. So he had nothing to stop himself from making it happen, because there was no selfishness in what he wanted to achieve. There was no extra money that he was going to get. There was no extra capitation fees and donations that he would get because it's college. Because in India, it's a big business. Population is so much that in order to get into a college, I have to pay huge amounts of money just to get into the college. And then, of course, there's fees. And this money is unaccounted for. And people sell their homes to get their children educated. It's a miserable sight, a miserable fate, if you will, or scheme of things where it is right now. Education has become so bizarre. So Baba was not into that game at all. Nowhere close. In fact, he said, let's do free. So he's exactly on the other way around. And he's eager to do it. So what is stopping him? So I use these lessons because when there is fear or trepidation or confusion or doubt that comes to my mind, I look back at these lessons and I learn from Baba. And that is why I said in his humanness lies his divinity. In that human approach that he did, he proved to us that when you want to give, you're content, and that's why you are about to give. If I'm not content, I won't be able to give. I won't only be seeking something or the other, either power, prestige, fame, name, money, whatever it is. If I'm seeking something, I won't be able to give. And as long as I'm seeking, there is no ceiling on that desire. So ceiling on desires to me is not just simply, I don't want this TV or I should not have this. To me, the understanding is maximizing the resources that are at hand, maximize it. To such an extent, the universe will say, okay, he's maximized, he needs some help. And the door will open for you to take the next step. A few minutes before I got up to see this wonderful little toy camera, because I do blogs and videos, I'm always interested in these toys. I saw that, and I sat back and said, ceiling on desires. It was not a fancy desire, because I always think that when Swami's student puts out something, it should be according to how Swami would have liked it, right? And then it came to me that the universe has given today the ability to do it with a smartphone. You can set up a wonderful gig with a smartphone. I'm capable of doing that. So there is no room for this. So this desire, even before it manifested itself, died down. Because I was content with water. I said, Swami, at least have a smartphone, thank you. Which I can shoot these videos and connect my microphone, whatever. The point is, when you are grateful and content, a sense of peace descends, a sense of detachment descends. And you are able to focus on the task at hand, which is what Baba did. He sought people and brought them to serve water, bring water. He spoke to politicians after politicians, only to give, not to get anything out of it. So self-satisfaction is one of the greatest divine qualities that we are blessed with, because we use that to give back to the community. We can use that to serve the Lord. But if we are not satisfied ourselves, then what happens is we end up seeking, we end up asking, we end up wanting, we end up craving, and we are kept craving, kept wanting all the time. Whether it is a spiritual goal, or whether it is a materialistic goal, or the social goal, we need to see that goal as already being achieved and be grateful that we are part of it. We're grateful to be given the chance to play a role in it. And we enjoy playing the role in it and watch the miracle of that vision being fulfilled. We just have to do our part without any seeking. That is one of the greatest lessons I learned from Swami. Because if you know truly who you are, there is no losing. Now, in a beauty pageant, a girl wins the Miss Universe. And then the girl who loses says, you know, you're actually ugly. This Miss Universe girl is going to smile at her and say, yeah, I understand. It's okay. That's all right. She's not upset. Why? Because she's already conferred the title of Miss Universe. She doesn't have to be upset because somebody else said you're ugly. She's already got that Miss Universe title. She knows who she is, and therefore it doesn't upset her. But what if you lose? This is okay. If you win something, you know you won, so nothing upsets you. But what if you lose? So there is a story of Charlie Chaplin. He writes in his memoir that he was going across Europe, and then he comes across a contest called the Charlie Chaplin Look-alike Contest. And so he says, interesting, I'll participate in that contest. And to his dismay, he ranks 7th in that contest. So he writes in his memoir, these are the days where showmen are better than the real people. But then he says, I enjoyed losing more than the winner enjoyed winning, because I am Charlie Chaplin. See how powerful is that statement? He knows he is Charlie Chaplin, just losing a contest of look-alike. He said they could, and I'm just paraphrasing what he said. He said they could mimic my moves, they could mimic my smiles, but they couldn't mimic my mind and my attitude. So in my losing, I enjoyed losing more than the winner enjoyed winning, because I am Charlie Chaplin. So when you know truly who you are, there is no losing. You'll enjoy losing as well, because it really doesn't affect your true nature. So we go back to who do you think you are. We talked about if I am the body, it is about this is who I think I am. If I am the mind, it's who others think I am. But who am I really? The one you really are. And see, Swami didn't use the word think there. Who do you think you are is use the word think. That means you're thinking with your mind. You're defining, limiting. Who others think you are, use the word think again. Somebody is designing. It's all within the mind, senses, framework. But then the third one is the one you really are. I am an instrument of thy peace. There's no make me an instrument. I'm waiting, Swami, purify my mind, clean my senses. None of that. Start saying, I am an instrument. You are. You are. So, the I am God, I am God, I am not different from God, however obscure it might seem at this moment. Why don't we start saying it to ourselves? Just like Swami said, call the vice chancellors, let's see what happens. Let's chant I am God, what is going to happen? Go for the very best. Why crave in the middle somewhere, Swami, make me an instrument, make me do that? No, where? I can't say I am God. I'm not there yet. Why not? Just start saying. Swami had that, and so the vice chancellors came to Puttaparthi, all of them, and when I say when Swami is enthusiastic about it, this is all very real, okay? And he calls a few of us, 25 people are coming, 25 boys are selected. He says, you all wear white and white. Don't say Sai Ram, say thank you, good morning. You have to take care of him. Each one was assigned a boy. Swami said, they should see you, they should see your behavior. And we were like, no, they're going to see the buildings and the labs. They're not interested in this. That's how our mind works. So we are limited in why this will not happen. But Baba was using every resource at his command to maximize that potential. I've got boys. They can behave well. This is what I'm all about. My education is about boys, right there. I'm showing them the end product. What is building? What is a lab? What is a laboratory? Those things can be built anytime. Let them see the end product. That was perhaps what was in Baba's mind. I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. But then we all went. We took care of these people. In the evening, 25 of them went into Swami's interview room. These are big professors. Many of them hardly sat on the floor, I guess. Haven't sat for a long time. I don't know. Yes, Baba, 8th grade dropout sitting on a chair, and all of them sitting on the floor. What a sight would that? I didn't see that, but I can imagine the sight. We talk of self-confidence. This is the heights of self-confidence. The ability to speak only Telugu, as far as we know. Broken Hindi, some English. And he's facing this vice chancellors. And they come out, Swami comes out of the interview room, all smiles, he comes straight into the bhajan hall. He says, how many of you want to be, do you all want to be in Sai University? He said, yes, Swami. It is happening, it is happening. My God, he was like a child. Yeah, I got what I wanted. I still, to this day, cannot understand how this whole thing happened. How does God view something like this? How does a master who comes views it in a completely different perspective from what normal individuals would view a project from? We call it being practical, we call it using management principles, we call it being scientific, we call it being realistic. And here comes some unrealistic, out of the blue Swami says, let's do a university. And within a year and a half of starting our college, a deemed university got its status. It has never been in the history of India. Never happened. Nobody's palms were greased. Nothing. It was simply the effort of Sai. Simply his vision was uncorrupted. That clarity of vision that he had was unmistakably divine. A decade later, when he announced this hospital, it was the same thing. I was in the Central Trust that time. I'd taken a break from college. Swami had asked me to work with my father. My father was in the Central Trust finance. We knew how much money was in the account. There was hardly anything just to meet bills at that time. We were barely paying. We had to run a university. Everything was free. So how do you pay the people? How do you pay professors and lecturers? And there was university. Now, once you become university, you had to pay university grants, commission, scales. You got to give them that scales, and all that was in place. And so the boat was sailing. And then Baba goes and announces this huge super specialty hospital next year, not even like 5 years from now, or sometime in the future. Think about those little things. I think about those little things every time. I say, where is that coming from? What drove him to make those announcements? Where was that strength coming from? Where was that ability to fathom that this will manifest, let's do it. It has to be selfless. It has to be. It cannot be selfish, because once you have a self involved in it, then your limitations overpower that project. It defines the scope of the project. But when you let it out to the universe to handle it, there is no limitation to that scope at all. The project will manifest itself far, far beyond your wildest expectations. And so he announced it. My father was upset. I was not upset. By then we got used to Swami doing this. We said, okay, maybe if not 1 year, it will happen in 3 years. It's difficult to sit there and actually believe this could happen, because the figures didn't match. There was no money anywhere. And my father was like, oh my God, why did Swami go and announce? How could he announce? Why are you? It's not your mission, it's his mission. Why are you getting stressed out? But lo and behold, a year later, there was this magnificent temple of healing. Because somebody had waited 18 years with a large sum of money waiting to give Swami, and Swami said, wait, when the time comes, I'll take it, not now. And see, there again, the contentment, self-satisfaction is a great lesson for me. Because when you are running an organization and authorities come to Swami and tell him, Swami, these bills have to be paid, has to be done, has to be done, Swami listens to it, nods his head, and Swami doesn't ask anybody money. There are no donation boxes in the ashram. Nobody solicits funds anywhere, anytime. And so the question is, how do you manage to meet? And then here's a devotee who's saying, Baba, I want to give money. If I was Baba, I would have said, come, I'll give you an interview. Let's solve out things fast, once and for all. That makes logical sense, correct? But not with Swami. To me, that self-satisfaction comes from at that level. What is that level of contentment which Swami had? That level of contentment came knowing I am Charlie Chaplin. I am God. He truly knew, he truly lived in that divine awareness of his inherent divinity. And that is why he said, wait, not wait for 1 week, not wait for 2 weeks. That person disappeared, never came back for a few months. I would have been, oh my gosh, where did he go? Where did that check go? The reason why I'm bringing it is because this is real, right? In our lives, we face real problems like this. And it's so simple and so logical. We justify our actions. And yet, when we look to Swami, there is no way you can even match your actions to what he did. He set such a beautiful, high, pure standard. Such a profound standard. And for 18 years, this person is waiting with money. I want to give, I want to help. Wait. And the time came, he said, now is the time, go. Do that. Why did he wait for 18 years? We don't know. We can't even put a finger at this master plan of these masters who had this vision, this courage, this magnanimity, and this amount of selflessness. We can't analyze why he waited 18 years, or why couldn't he start the hospital along with the education institutions and so on and so forth. We cannot. But then, when it was done at the right moment. And it was done in a very profound way. And we, as people around him, had these lessons to take home. What is the level of contentment and what it can bring to you? More reasons to be content. The more you say, I don't want, the more it will come to your door. Ma phaleshu kadachana, Swami says in the Gita, karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. I told you I like to quote Sanskrit once in a while. I quote Tamil also, but there are some really good Tamilians here, so I won't take the risk. Ma phaleshu kadachana is refuse the fruits of your action, not ignore it. Refuse it. Ma, Swami said it's ma phaleshu, not na phaleshu, ma phaleshu. Refuse it, saying I am not interested in the fruits of my action. Refuse the fruits of your action. Yet, our modern education is all about fruits of action. Set the goal there, reach of the goal. Value your progress based on what's the fruits of your action. It's all about exactly the opposite. And that's why we have created a society where an individual is striving to be an individual, separate from the others. We're not creating a community. We're creating individuals. We're not creating leaders. We're creating successful people. And only from the point of view of money and power or prestige or whatever it is that drives them to do that. They see themselves as separate from others. And so it's for what is in it for me? How can I succeed at the cost of others? And that's what happened in 2000, 2007, 2008 recession. Educated people destroyed their country's economy, right? And so when you look at that from what Swami did, it is unbelievable. And so to the point when I say refuse the fruit of action, my father, when Swami, when he retired and he came to the ashram, Swami said, I will give you a room. My father was an accountant. So he had this false prestige about him, saying that I don't want to be just handed over a room. I have to also donate. I mean, I'm moving with people who are also donating. I don't want to be left out. So he told me, ask Swami. I said, don't put me in this. I am not getting involved with this. It's between you and Swami. Swami had told him, I will give you a room. And Swami is very particular about the words he chooses, about how he does it. Very, very, very particular. Whether you respect his words or not, he respected his own words. And so, he said, I will give you a room, and they gave my father a room. Colonel Jogarao came and gave the key to my father. He said, Swami has asked me to give you this room, please take it. My father said, very happy. He wrote a letter of gratitude, but along with that letter of gratitude, my father slipped in a check to Swami. I didn't know about this. And so Swami comes the next day. I thought my father's got a room. I can slowly now move from the hostel to my parents stay in the mandir, because mandir means more access to Swami. And so I was thinking of that. But the next day Swami comes with that envelope in his hand and he flung it at me. He said, pack your baggage and get out. You, your parents, everybody get out. I was like, I couldn't understand what happened. I was like, what? Swami? He said, Chudu dantlo. I opened the leg, there was a check. Did I ask money? Who's your father to give money? I know whom to take from, whom to take and when to take. Did I ask? Who asked him to give? Like this you want to do, go away from here. He was so angry and he walked out to give darshan. And I was stunned and I said, why did my father do this? Why did my father do this? So Ma Faleshu Kadasan, he would refuse. Don't give me money. I know what to do. Don't do that. My father went out of his way to write a check. He knows it. But my father also did it because he wanted to maintain a prestige, not because he really wanted to offer Swami. I guess that's why it didn't click. But Swami was so upset. Why did I ask? Dabbu, I don't want dabbu. Take it. He didn't want that relation with us. That power to refuse the fruits of your action, I think therein lies the gift of self-satisfaction and contentment. Because if you're seeking something and wanting more, then you will always be seeking and wanting. And Swami's mission would have always been left to be fulfilled at some point in time. He already saw it as fulfilled. I've come to light the lamp of love in your hearts. He saw that happening from day one. I am an embodiment of love. I am God. And so he was true to who he was in his true nature, and therefore he was able to achieve everything. And it is not blasphemy, in my opinion, to follow the footsteps of Swami in whatever we do. I don't think so. Because if you remember, there was a discourse, and all of us were there in the mid-80s, and Swami said, don't walk behind me. I am not your leader. It was one of the management kind of talks. I don't know where it was, Purnachandra Autumn. I remember that part because I was like, oh my gosh, Swami, this is so beautiful what you said. Don't walk behind me. I am not your leader. Don't walk in front of me. I am not your follower. Walk beside me. Hold my hand. Walk beside me. How powerful is that statement? Meaning that look at how he lived his life and let's fashion our life after him. What is wrong? It's so easy for this mind, deceptive mind of ours, to say, no, but he is God. He can do all that. He had these magical powers. He could establish institutions and make his project succeed. But ask every student, he worked for it. There was no magical powers that we saw. It was simple, straightforward, selfless love and work. You know, I recently spoke to a group of youngsters as part of their journalist conference. And I said, the most important thing, and I framed it after Swami's life again, I said, he chose excellence. He chose excellence, not success. And when you are aiming for excellence and striving for excellence in whatever you do, whether it is a cup of coffee that you make, or whether it is an altar that you put, or whether it is the way you set up your, whatever it is, the little things in life, when you strive for excellence, success will automatically follow. You don't have to worry about, am I being successful or not? That is not the criteria. But here we are taught how to succeed in life today, how to be successful, how to be a successful entrepreneur, how to be a successful parent, how to be a successful team builder or team player, how to be a successful leader. You see, there are tons of books written, and I read them, they're all good, but then they lack this perspective of a master who walked the earth, this perspective of Jesus and Krishna and Rama and Sai Baba, where nothing worldly could limit them or tell them that they couldn't do this or couldn't do that. There was nothing, and nobody could tell him that you couldn't do something. Because he strove for excellence in all that he did. Everything that we do, if we as Sai devotees are excellent, strive for excellence, I don't see anything else other than success that can follow. There cannot be anything else. It has to be. Let me end with this last story. We were leaving, and perhaps I've shared this before, but I love these stories so much, and just like Ramayana and Mahabharata and the stories of, you revisit it, and every time I revisit my own stories, I learn something new. and I hope you do too. We were leaving for the summer vacation to go home, reluctantly, because many of us didn't want to go home, because while most of people go home, some of us stayed back and we had the chances of, Swami will say, what are you all doing? Had your breakfast? Okay, come in. And you talk to us. 10, 15 people, like that. Occasionally, not every day, but then those occasional chances were great to listen to more. Like I said yesterday, that magnetic pull that he had, no student ever would say, oh, I had 20 interviews, I'm done, I don't want any more. We were always eager to get more, listen more. And so I said reluctantly because that particular, I think it was 85 World Conference, and Swami said I have to whitewash he had this excuse, I have to whitewash the hostel building and all, I don't want anybody staying there, everybody go home. I had to whitewash Mandir, nobody can stay in Mandir also. So he used these excuses to say, whitewash means, clean up and paint and everything. So I had to do all this painting, so everybody has to vacate. Those days the Kodaikanal trips didn't start yet. And so we said, Swami, we will help and we'll do this and that. He said, no. I don't want parents to think that Sai Baba has hidden their children somewhere. You all go vacation. Everybody go home. So reluctantly, that summer vacation, we agreed to go home, to the point where Swami took a bundle of notes and put 200 rupees in each of our pocket. He actually went around folding and said, go, buy ticket, go home. You buy ticket and go home. So he does that, you're not going to say, no, we still can't go. So we reluctantly agreed. Then Swami sat down in the chair. And he said, okay, so what will you all do when you go home? He asked one boy, what will you do? Swami, I'll attend bhajans. I think we all meant what we said. We don't lie to Swami. We dare not. And then somebody said, Swami, I'll go to the center. I'll talk to my friends about Swami. Something like that. Each one said something. And Swami just sat back in his chair and he said, Oka katha cheptunanu. I'll tell you all a story. That lesson is very profound, and I want all of us to take that home, that lesson. There's a reason why he shared those things with us, so we can share it. He said, this Kotecharu, these are names of villages that are around Puttaparthi. From this Kotecharu, a group of people went to another village named he mentioned. And so he said they went to this nearby village. From this village, they went there one night to see Burrakatha and all the festivities were going on. In the night when they were returning, it was pitch dark. It was Amavasya. They forgot, they didn't know which way to go. They got lost in the fields. They didn't know how to go searching for the village. And they were confused and they were talking to each other, how do we find way back to my village? And then Baba says, in a distance they heard dogs barking. And they said, oh, there the dog barking is from that direction. That must be our village, so let's go there. And then the other half said, wait. A nakkala kukkala. Is it foxes? I can hear a howling too. So they got more confused, Baba said. Whether they were dogs or foxes. And when Swami tells in Telugu, he plays a lot with words. Nakka, kukka and all that stuff. And so they were dogs or foxes, people are more confused. But they are going. And then in one corner, Swami said, there was a street lamp. Under that street lamp, there were two paths. They went to that street lamp, they knew which path to take, they went home. The story finished, we were like, okay, so. And then came the beauty of it. Swami said, did the street lamp tell them where to go? No, Swami. Did it attend bhajans and sing bhajans for them? This is your way, go your way. No, Swami. Did it go people and give speeches and spoke about Swami and chastened that? It did its job. Its job was to give light. And in that light, people found their way. And then he said, I don't want you to be street dogs. I want you to be street lamps. Live your life. People will see that and will find their own way. You don't go about sharing your faith and your inspiration and you want to transform people. That's not your job. Your job is to reflect who he was. Let your words reflect his words. Let your thoughts reflect his values. Let your personality, your presence reflect his divinity. Let it be a reflection. I am an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, I sow pardon. Where there is doubt, I sow faith. Where there is despair, I sow hope. Where there is darkness, I give light. From this day on, I will seek out to console rather than seek to be consoled. I will seek out to pardon rather than seek to be pardoned. I will seek out to love rather than seek to be loved. For it is in giving that I truly receive. It is in pardoning that I am pardoned. It is in dying that I am born to eternal life. Sai Ram.